This is Andy Staples at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I still don't believe it just happened. Alabama, certain victory, chip shot field goal. They miss, go to overtime. And then with a true freshman quarterback who had just taken a 16-yard sack, a 41-yard touchdown pass from Tua Tagovailoa to Devontae Smith to win the game, to beat Georgia and win the national title. Nick Saban tying Bear Bryant with his 6th national title. And he had to do it the hard way. He had to replace Jalen Hurts at halftime because he wasn't getting the job done. True freshman Tua Tagovailoa comes in. Meanwhile, they had to replace left tackle Jonah Williams because he got hurt. True freshman Alex Leatherwood comes in. Meanwhile, the running backs who were older weren't getting it done. True freshman Najee Harris comes in. This game will go down in Alabama lore forever. This might be a lot of Alabama fans' favorite national title.
The national championship game was a tale of two halves as Georgia controlled the game in the first before Nick Saban made a switch at QB in the second, bringing in Tua Tagovailoa to replace Jalen Hurts, and Alabama's passing game opened up from there, making Tagovailoa our adrenaline performer presented by Toyota. Let's go places. The true freshman led the Tide to 26 points after they were shut out at halftime. He threw 3 touchdown passes, including the decisive strike in overtime, a 41-yard completion to Devontae Smith down the sideline to give Alabama its 5th title in 9 years. Welcome to SI Now Live. I'm Robin Lundberg here with Ryan Aselta and our college football analyst Pete Mundo. And Pete, Jalen Hurts 25-2 as Alabama's starter. He's taken them to back-to-back national title games, of course. With Tagovailoa's legendary, I guess, performance, what happens now?
Transfer? I'd be filling out the applications at this point. They're probably both going to be there in spring ball, and they'll have a competition, and Nick Saban will talk about, the best man's going to win this thing. But I don't see how Tagovailoa is not your starting quarterback going into next season coming off this performance. The Alabama fan base would go absolutely bonkers. Now, I know those guys go bonkers anyway, but still, that was such an all-time performance in the biggest game of the year, biggest game of his life to date, biggest game of most of these guys' lives to date. It was just such an impressive performance, and I don't see how Jalen Hurts wins his job back.
Let's talk about Saban, Pete. Jalen Hurts, the Alabama offense, completely stymied in that first half by the Georgia defense. Not many football coaches would have had the guts to do what Nick Saban did, go to a true freshman quarterback, completely switch up the offense, and we saw the result. How much does this enhance Saban's legacy as a college football head coach?
I think in many ways Saban's almost getting too much credit for that move. I mean, Tagovailoa, for those people that really follow college football, he was a 5-star guy. He was one of the top 2 players at his position, depending on which recruiting service you follow. I know he's a true freshman. He had played in 7 games this season, though he had some experience. You were playing Jake Fromm at Georgia, a true freshman quarterback there. And ultimately, Jalen Hurts was doing nothing. He was 3 of 8 for 21 yards passing. You weren't going to win this game with Jalen Hurts at quarterback. So it's not like you're going to a walk-on quarterback here, a guy from a community college in Kansas that just happened to be a 1-star guy, walked on your team, and you're giving him a shot. This is a 5-star guy, one of the top quarterbacks in the nation coming out of high school last year, who had experience and knew the offense. And you said, all right, I might lose this game, but I can't allow it to continue like this with Jalen Hurts. Everybody's known about the potential of Tagovailoa. I mean, Alabama fans have been talking about this guy for months. He finally got his shot, and it paid off.
I don't know. I don't know if another coach would have had the gall, Robin, at that point at halftime of the national championship to make the move. We're not talking about a SEC game mid-season against LSU. We're talking about the pinnacle of their season here, right?
Yeah, but I mean, the way he played, you could make the argument that he should have been in earlier this season.
And that's what Alabama fans have wanted that. Last week, we talked about this. It was the idea that how much credit, you asked me, Robin, how much credit does Jalen Hurts deserve for this team's success? And I said, not much. And that was the answer. The answer was not much. He has been put in a position to not fail. And the idea that people were saying at halftime last night, how do you take out Jalen Hurts? He's thrown 1 interception in 246 passing attempts. It doesn't matter how few mistakes you made. At some point, you have to make plays. And Jalen Hurts, outside of that 1 touchdown run last year in the national title game, was never asked to make a big play. And when Alabama needed it, He couldn't do it, so they had to go to Tagovailoa.
You know who's happiest that Tagovailoa came in the game? Alabama's kicker, so he didn't have to try and redeem himself in overtime after that went wide left.
And let's talk about Georgia. Kirby Smart, 20-7 lead here, 6 minutes to go in this football game. Pete, what could Kirby and the Bulldogs have done differently to hold off this Alabama comeback?
So 6 minutes in the third quarter, they have that lead. And looking back on it, he went run, pass. He did what he was supposed to do. He had Nick Chubb, he had Sonny Michel, he had those guys operating. I don't think much could have gone differently for him on offense. I don't think they got too conservative. I don't think they were at the same time on the flip side taking too many shots and not trying to run the clock. It was still a ball game. Alabama had the momentum, and Jake Fromm was playing pretty darn well. He had that 80-yard touchdown pass down the right sideline. He had confidence. He had that fluky interception where it tipped off a guy's helmet, was picked up by an Alabama defensive lineman. I don't think offensively Georgia could have done much different to try to milk this clock more or play more conservative. I think they had to try to get their offense back in shape, stop that Alabama momentum that Tagovailoa gave them. It just didn't work out in their favor.
Big picture question. Is Alabama's dominance good for college football?
I think it is. I think it becomes like the New York Yankees in baseball, the Los Angeles Lakers in basketball. You have that powerhouse team, that powerhouse program that everybody's trying to take down. People say it's bad. You all want parity. That's what everyone always says. No, you want that team or that player with the bullseye on their back that everybody's chasing. So ultimately this adds to Nick Saban's legacy. He's now officially in the record books. Nobody's done this, 5 titles in 9 years in the poll era. So it is unbelievable what he's done. This title in particular goes down in legendary fashion. And ultimately, I know we all get sick of Alabama winning every year or what it feels like, but it is good for the sport.
Well, the odds were just released. Alabama the favorite to win again next year.
No shocker there, and now with Tagovailoa, I might place a wager on that.
Are they going to win it?
We're 12 hours, not even 12 hours removed. Let's move this thing forward to next year.
Think about this, too. Najee Harris, freshman running back who you saw last night, get some nice reps. Tagovailoa. There were a lot of freshmen making big plays on the offensive side of the ball for Alabama. So we always know the defense is great, never an issue. You get the offense now with some experience with that group of guys, forget it. My money's on the Crimson Tide right now, not even 12 hours after the game.
All right, you heard it here. Pete Mundo's money on the Tide for 2018. Thanks, Pete. Let's look forward. The loss to Georgia will sting for quite some time, of course. But when you look at the Bulldogs roster and recruiting class, it wouldn't be too surprising to see the Dogs back on this stage again next season. Here's SI's Eric Single, who says despite the heartbreak, the future is still very bright in Athens.
Eric Single here in Atlanta on the field at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where we just saw one of the best national championship game endings we'll see for quite some time. Alabama 26, Georgia 23 in overtime. And coming out of the Georgia locker room, obviously a lot of disappointed guys, but a large group of younger players on this Bulldogs team that know that this is not the last time Georgia will be on this type of stage. Obviously, you had Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Davin Bellamy. A lot of guys on Georgia's team came back just for this type of moment, to chase hardware that the Bulldogs had come up short of in the past. But then you have the guys that really showed out in this game. Jake Fromm was outplaying Jalen Hurts, who was 25-2 as a starter before he came in tonight, really struggled against that Georgia defense. Fromm knows he's a true freshman. He's got a lot of time. The Bulldogs have the #1 recruiting class in the country so far. So for a game that was all about freshman performances, especially the quarterbacks on both sides and key contributors, including the guy who scored the game-winning touchdown, Devontae Smith, Georgia certainly has proof of concept now that they can make it to this stage and they have the talent to play with the best in the country. But that does not make the sting of the way this one ended, an instant classic, hurt any worse for the Bulldogs and their fans.
So with Alabama's dramatic win, Nick Saban caps off a decade of unprecedented success in Tuscaloosa. Saban has now won 5 national titles at Alabama and 6 overall, tying him with Bear Bryant for the most in the college football poll era. The Alabama string of dominance has drawn some comparison to another football dynasty, and that's Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots. Saban's close friend Belichick has won 5 Super Bowl titles over an 18-year stretch in Foxborough. So, Robin, when you look at the two coaches, the two dynasties, which one is more impressive to you?
Look, any sort of run of that sort of sustained success is very impressive. But if I'm picking between the two, I'm going Bill Belichick because I believe it's more difficult to do it at the pro level. At the college level, you have a chance to essentially corner the market on talent. If I am a prospective 5-star recruit coming out of high school, this goes for college football and basketball, there are really a couple of programs you're looking at as these ones that seem like factories for the pros that are going to get you on the high stage, get you a chance to win. And in college football, I don't know if there is a bigger one right now than Alabama. So Nick Saban is able to bring in the guys he wants. You have to be a little more creative in how you do that in the pros with salary caps, with the draft, not allowing you to just go to somebody's house and say, hey, come play for me. And that's why I give the edge to Bill Belichick.
Yeah, I'll hop on that as well. And I'll say right off the bat, I'm not a big fan of either one of these guys. So I'll be objective, and I'm going to lean towards Belichick, though a little tough to decide here. But what Belichick has done in the environment of the NFL with free agency, with a salary cap, now it's helped, obviously. Tom Brady, very friendly when negotiating his contract, has allowed Belichick to bring in certain personnel. But what he's done over a longer stretch of time, a more competitive environment. He is facing different challenges from many different teams each year, and he's sustained that success. Now, against Belichick, he's been caught cheating, okay? I don't know if Saban, that hasn't happened to him quite yet, but I'm still leaning towards him. I think you're right. When Nick Saban has cornered the market for Alabama, he can get whoever he wants. He just doesn't have enough roster spots to get everyone he wants. Nick Saban comes a calling, you go to play for Alabama. That's made it a little bit easier for him, I think.
Who has a better smile, Nick Saban or Bill Belichick?
Does Belichick smile?
I don't know if I've seen either of them.
No, I don't think I ever have.
Maybe a smirk. It goes from like smirk to grimace.
Yeah.
When you speak of sustained success, you can go to the Cleveland Cavaliers, at least when LeBron James is around, but they've had a rough stretch since Christmas, dropping 5 of 7, including a 28-point loss to the Wolves last night, which featured an ejection for Isaiah Thomas for his chop to the throat of Andrew Wiggins, and a minus 39 in the box score for LeBron James, the worst plus-minus of his career. Is this a typical midseason swoon or a bad sign for the Cavs?
Plus, minus. LeBron said, I don't care about no plus, minus. So I guess he's not into those numbers. I think this is just a typical veteran team going through a little bit of a lull. This is the same team that won 13 in a row earlier this season. They're learning how to play with Isaiah Thomas. Let's face it. It's a different team. It's a different offense, learning to work him into the mix. And Isaiah is a big part of the long-term plans for this team come April, May, and June. So figuring that out I don't think this is a big deal. 6 of 9, all of a sudden they'll turn it on again. Motivation comes into play. It's a Monday night against Minnesota. Maybe they weren't up for that, a game on the road. My concern, though, is they're lucky Jimmy Butler's in the Western Conference. I mean, he is completely dominating LeBron. The plus-minus, a product of Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler's won his last 7 straight head-to-head meetings with LeBron, and LeBron scored 2 points in his last 43 possessions against Butler. So we're lucky Minnesota isn't in the Eastern Conference. That'd be a big-time problem for the Cavs.
I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, one, they have this sort of lull almost every season, post-Christmas, pre-All-Star break. It makes sense in the sense of the schedule, right? You're getting towards that vacation that you might have. You've been around the block.
Is that what they view the All-Star game?
I mean, it kind of has to be a little bit, a little time off there. But at the same time, there are real issues with the Cavaliers, at least when you're measuring them against the elite teams, especially in the West, but even in the East. The East has gotten a lot better. Boston's going to be there. They're not going anywhere. Toronto is very good. And the Cavs have legit issues in a lack of perimeter athleticism. They are 29th in the entire NBA defensively. That is a glaring problem, and they're also the oldest team in the NBA. So I don't think they can fix those issues to get to the level they want to without some sort of personnel shakeup. I believe they need this year's version of the J.R. Smith Iman Shumpert trade that they made LeBron's first year back in Cleveland. That team had some of the same issues where they were slow on the perimeter. The Cavs need to do something to address that, or else they're going to be bounced at best in the finals. At worst, they won't make it there.
And we've seen it before. LeBron is going to push to make a move right before the deadline because the needs that you see, they're glaringly obvious for LeBron as well. He'll fill those voids, I think.
The Cavs, of course, doing better than the Browns. Cavs in a rough patch, but nothing like what's going on with their counterpart in the city. And LeBron had some words for Browns defensive end Emmanuel Ogbah, who said any Browns fan going to an 0-16 parade shouldn't call themselves a fan. LeBron's response was, quote, But how are you going to be pissed at the fans? It's not like they don't show up. I mean, damn, it's 1-31. If our fans decided they wanted to have a bleeped up parade and we were 1-31 the last 2 years, you can't be mad at that. So who's right?
Only one bleep in there, which was a bleep-filled response from LeBron. I think Agba's right. I think the parade is lame, and it's completely mocking the Browns. You know, they've gone 1-31, but, you know, this may surprise Browns fans. They're not trying to lose all these games. Going 1-31 over a 2-year stretch, these guys do have some sense of pride. They are trying out there, and Agba knows what they put on the line week in and week out, physically, mentally, preparation. Now, obviously, it hasn't translated to win. So if I was Agba, I'd be upset. LeBron sounds like a pissed-off fan. That's what he sounds like to me, and, you know, fans have a right. But the parade was self-pity. It was lame. And anyone who went to it, I mean, I don't know if you're a true Browns fan if you're going to a parade like that.
Here's the thing, Ryan. Some things are deserving of mockery, and the Cleveland Browns are right near the top of that list. And if you're a fan of the Browns, I'm someone who believes you don't have to be loyal no matter what, right? If the organization is not reciprocating that loyalty, why do you have to stick with them? So if these Browns fans have done the organization a favor and stuck with them through all of these terrible years, then they got to figure out a way to have some fun, make some light out of it, tongue-in-cheek. I mean, what else are you going to do? The bag trick is old, old hat at this point. Pun intended, I guess. So you have to try something else.
So wait, are you going to a New York Knicks pity parade?
Huh? I don't even know if the Knicks can throw one of those. The only parade the Knicks are good at, they're good at the press conference championship parade. Remember when they hired Phil Jackson?
They've mastered that. Yeah, the master of the press conference. One press conference coming up will be in Chicago this week, where the Bears name their new head coach in what some perceived as a head-scratching move. Former Chiefs offensive coordinator Matt Nagy takes over in Chicago. Now, Nagy is coming off a debacle of a playoff game in KC, where the Chiefs were unable to score in the second half of their loss to the Titans. Robin, when you look at the hiring, how surprised are you with this one?
Not really at all.
No?
I mean, if I was surprised by this because of how the Chiefs played in the playoffs, I'd have to, then retroactively go, hey, should the 49ers have fired Kyle Shanahan after the Super Bowl a year ago because of some of the play calling down the stretch there? In this sense, you're rewarding the big picture and what these guys have accomplished. If I'm watching offenses and looking at creativity, the Chiefs are right up there. I mean, they didn't exactly have a down-the-field thrower in Alex Smith. They don't have that typical wide receiver that you think of in today's passing game. They've got a lot of gadget players. They've got a lot of guys who can make plays after the catch or after the run. And I believe they emphasize that and played to their strengths. So I don't hate this hire, even though it's easy to go, ha, 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 look what they did in their playoff game.
I think it's interesting. I mean, Nagy seems to have earned this job the first 6 weeks of this season when the Chiefs were on fire. They were throwing the ball downfield. And then the adjustment was made across the NFL defensively on how to handle the Chiefs. His track record is very interesting. 1 year as offensive coordinator in a system where he shares the play calling duties with Andy Reid. Andy Reid has had his hands on every offense he's ever coached. This guy was an intern less than 10 years ago and quickly moved up the ranks. I don't know. The play calling at the second half of that playoff loss, up 21-3 against the Titans, you have the leading rusher in the NFL in Kareem Hunt, and he handed them the ball 11 times for the game, 6 times in the second half, and you're up 18 points. I don't know. If I'm a Bears fan, I'm not feeling very confident about the hire. I tend to say, hey, let this guy show us what he's got, see if he comes in. Obviously, the organization believes in him, but I'm a little skeptical if I'm a Bears fan seeing Matt Nagy as the new head coach after what we saw last Sunday. Well, the Raiders, speaking of coaches, they're formally going to announce the return of Jon Gruden as their head coach out in Oakland. Now, Gruden, of course, last coached in the league from 2002 to 2008 in Tampa Bay, where he led the Bucs to a Super Bowl title. Let's welcome in the quarterback who helped Jon Gruden bring that championship to Tampa Bay. Brad Johnson joins us courtesy of Toyota. Let's go places. And Brad, you, of course, played for Gruden for 3 years. You won a title with him during that 2002-2003 season, Super Bowl 37. When you think back to Gruden, what was his defining characteristic as a head football coach?
He came in there. Tony Dungy had been the head coach there for a long time, and kind of Tampa was, the creamsicles and just a losing organization, and got it back to a winning organization. We made the playoffs the year before, and then in the middle of the night, a trade was made, and John came in there And I remember my very first meeting with Jon, and I was in a dark room with him. He's watching film and all that. And he, at the very beginning, he challenged me and challenged us. And he said, Brad, how's our defense going to stop us in practice? How's Simeon Rice, Derek Brooks, John Lynch? How are they going to stop triple right, F right, 358 in Nebraska seam? How are they going to stop blast off the joker right, X short, 22X drive, halfback burst? Our defense can't stop us. And by saying that, it was a challenge in practice. He called out our defense. He said, "These are the things you're great at. These are the things you've been exposed." And he challenged those guys to take it to another level. He challenged our offense to go to another level. I think we brought in 25 to 28 players that year during the course of the year. And every week was a challenge. It was war in practice. And he made us believe, is the word I would say. We got better in practice against facing each other. He made us believe that we were going to do it. We didn't talk about it publicly. And just something that it all came together as magic in a bottle at the end of the year. Obviously playing against the Raiders, his former team. And it was a special year to be a part of. But you never fall asleep in one of his meetings. You're either laughing, you're learning, or you're getting better. And that's kind of that's the approach we took. And it was a veteran team, and we were ready to take on this challenge.
Do you think that's a coaching style that will resonate with today's players as well?
I do. Players want to be coached. Players want to win. Players want to have careers, and they want to have defining moments. And that's what Jon wants to bring. Obviously, he's been out of football for a long time, but it's kind of like Chucky's back. Well, Chucky never left. He was, he did the TV, the QB show. He was on ESPN. He went around to different training camps in the summertime. He never left the game. He was always learning, making himself better. He's, Monday Night Football, studying teams. And I think he got around GMs, he got around different coaches, and and the personalities of the game, and kind of he got his zest, he's got his love back for the game, and also just being around people. And it's an exciting time for him. And obviously going back to Oakland, an organization he's been there before, and knows how to, knows everything about it. So it's an exciting time for Oakland, exciting time for Jon, and I'm excited for Derek Carr myself.
Yeah, let's talk about Derek Carr, Brad. One player that Gruden's going to have to resonate is the quarterback, right, and that's Carr. When you look at Carr, his makeup, is this going to be a successful fit with Gruden in Oakland?
Yeah, Jon, he wouldn't have taken the job if there wasn't a special talent like that. I mean, Derek, 2 years ago, he kind of came on the scene, is on the radar for MVP, had a broken leg in the playoffs, and this past year kind of went through an up and down kind of season, but Derek is full of talent. He's a winner, obviously a top pick of the draft coming out, and he wants to prove himself. He's young, he's hungry, and has the thing in front of Derek is, obviously he has the contract now. He has a winning attitude, but now you got to go out there and go get it. And I think it'll be a great combination once their personalities fit together. When Jon Gruden first came to Tampa, the first call I made was to Rich Gannon. Rich and I had been together in Minnesota. 1992, I was a third string guy. He was a first string guy, and Rich, he explained who Jon Gruden was and how well you would be prepared going into every game. And football is going to be the most fun of your life. And so that's what I see for Derek Carr. He's going to have to learn a new system, learn a new language, but it's going to be exciting times for both of them. And so it'll be interesting to see how this offseason goes. But I'm excited for both Derek and Jon Gruden get together.
You're doing a really good job selling Gruden's reputation as a quarterback guru, though I have seen some criticism over his lack of offensive success at times. Do you think he'll have to make an adjustment to today's pass-happy NFL?
No, I think Jon plays winning football. I think if you just get in the numbers game, you can twist stats however you want to twist them. I think Jon's communication with the quarterback, with the offense, he's the guy calling the plays. He's the one in the meeting room installing it. You're with Jon 9 hours a day, kind of thing. And Jon, for the last 9 years, that's what I said before. He's kept himself in the game, so the game has evolved from offensive standpoint and defensive standpoint. So Jon's kept himself in the game. He's ready to go. He would not have taken the job if he wasn't ready. And I think it's perfect timing for all parties.
You obviously have fond memories of your time with Jon Gruden. What's one Jon Gruden coaching memory that sticks out to you?
There's a lot, but I remember our very first game. The very first game we lost in Tampa, the first home game. It was embarrassing. Lost to the Saints, and next week we got to go play Baltimore Ravens with Ray Lewis, and I was holy cow, I got to come in and Jon's just going to kill me. And came in, the very first thing he said, Brad, I got the most unbelievable game plan for you. You're going to have a great week next week. We're going to win the ball game, and we're going to get this thing rolling. So I just remember, you got to get over the Chucky doll. You got to get over the blonde hair. And the guy loves football. He's passionate about it, and it's contagious. So that's why I think he changed the building for us in Tampa. He made a big impact on my life. And things aren't always going to go smooth, but he's ready for the next day, next opponent. And it's going to be a great time for the Oakland fans.
Thanks, Brad. Really appreciate your time. And if you ever need a loan, I think you know who to ask.
He hit the jackpot.
All right, we couldn't make it through a Tuesday here on SI Now without talking about America and Lithuania's most notorious family, the Balls. SI's Jared Zwirling just returned from Lithuania, and he joins us now. And Jared, you spent some time with the Balls. We've seen the video. We've heard the song, Welcome to Lithuania. How is life for the Balls in transitioning to their professional game abroad at this point?
It was so surreal. That press conference I was at last Friday, the reporters were so interesting with their questions. One asked LeAngelo out on a date. One reporter challenged LeVar to a one-on-one matchup. A reporter with the Lakers hat said, LeVar, sign my hat to know when your brothers will be in with the Lakers. So it was so crazy, just the reaction. They're so excited. Lithuania has a very strong basketball culture, but this has elevated this to another level because of just the reality TV aspect of this. They have a camera crew following them everywhere they go. Every move is so scrutinized, so the reaction is so crazy and diverse. As far as their lifestyle, it's really laid back there. It's a very countryside environment. Really 2 major hotels overall. It's like a lot of lowland, so their lifestyle is very different. Not like LA, obviously. So their days are really filled with a lot of rest. LeAngelo and LaMelo are really watching a lot of Netflix and things like that. Wake up in the morning at 8 a.m. So really, they're not doing a lot. And also the team is very laid back with their schedule. It's a lot of rest. It's not a lot of activities. So they want these guys really focused on basketball. And that's also their mentality, too. They're very focused on basketball. And that's where LeVar comes in, too. He's there for 6 weeks or more, really helping the guys adjust to the culture there. So that's really what they're doing right now.
I want to ask you about Steve Kerr and his assessment. He had an interesting assessment of the Balls, of LeVar, who you sat down with, talked with, in depth with. Steve Kerr said, if you package that irrational nonsense with glitter and some ribbon, people are going to watch. He called LeVar, his family, the Kardashians of the NBA. After spending time with the family, Jared, what's your assessment of what Kerr is saying?
Well, I think he has a point. I mean, right now, LeVar is definitely saying a lot of crazy things. He's very vocal. He has the mic in his face right now, and literally with his brothers or his sons playing in Lithuania, it's going to come with that. It's going to come with that reality TV from Facebook, following every move is really scrutinized right now. So lots about the reporter. What kind of questions should they ask the brothers and the father about what it's like to really be in this country? It's not so much about the stateside. Let them focus on what they want to do first, and that's basketball. They're starting their careers. LaMelo is 16 years old. LeAngelo is 18. Let them focus on this. Let's not cause so much distraction. So I really want reporters to really get these guys to really focus on what their task is right now. LaMelo and LeAngelo and even Lonzo at 20 years old, they're still so young. They haven't really scraped any surface yet of their basketball potential. So the distraction really needs to be less and more about basketball, in my opinion. Yeah,
it's interesting to me because I find what LeVar is doing to challenge the system very intriguing. Whether he's the one who succeeds or not, maybe it's a watershed moment because we're talking about, the big shoe companies. We're talking about NCAA and the way it goes about its business. But I don't love when he's speaking out about Luke Walton and how Lonzo's being coached. How much do you think LeVar is either positively or negatively influencing the Ball brothers on a day-to-day basis in what they're trying to accomplish?
Major influence, especially overseas. Like I said, LeVar is there for 6 weeks or more. He's going to be really analyzing every move. He's at every practice. The cameras are on him. He knows that, so his influence is very strong. He created a 5-game tournament called the Big Baller Brand Challenge Games just for the brothers to get more playing time. They have their first game today at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the court will actually have Big Baller Brand on the court. The winner of the game will get $2,000. The MVP of the game will get a pair of Lonzo's sneakers. So that's pretty much a lot of influence out there. So he's going to really scrutinize the situation. Every move is calculated. I talked to LeVar. This was the plan him and his wife Tina had when they were babies. We were going to get our sons to the NBA, and they're going to be very successful. So this is not just happening from when Lonzo was drafted. This is a plan that was in place years ago, and now it's really coming to fruition right now.
What's your gut tell you? I mean, is this mainly about money for LeVar, his company? You mentioned the tournament, but there's big baller branding all over this thing. Or this is about the development of his two sons and trying to foster their career as professional basketball players? I
think it's definitely money, for sure. You don't start your brand without putting a high price tag of $500, $495 for the shoes. So, the money is always there. Like I said, the $2,000 for the winner, the shoes. They want to market. It's not just about the money to the brothers and the whole family. It's money to the whole brand. They want to, I think LeVar is using this opportunity to now infiltrate Europe. That's a big part of this. I think people aren't really talking about. It's now getting to the global market. And we talked about that. I had a conversation with LeVar. He's very focused on the whole market of the big baller brand. So there's definitely money. Development, absolutely. Like I said, this was a plan in place to get their kids to the NBA and really have success. High school didn't really matter for LaMelo. He talked about that in an interview a couple days ago. He said that I'm not going to be a scientist or a doctor. I'm going to be a professional basketball player. This is exactly the move to make to elevate that. Same with LiAngelo. So I think it's all calculated, like I said, for them to be really successful superstars if they can get to that level.
I'll give LeVar this. When I see BBB, I definitely think Big Baller Brand and not Better Business Bureau now.
Apparently, LeVar thought that was defunct anyway. Such an intriguing end of this story. So much more intriguing. I agree with Robin. Then LeVar's take on the Lakers. How this pans out in Lithuania. See if he gets any pushback already. I guess there was some pushback that the camera crew could not get into the arena on the road, which meant the kids could not play in the game. I mean, have you seen a little bit of that yet, as far as him not being embraced, countrywide in Lithuania?
When I was there, he was very embraced. I talked to Vilas, who's a sports director for the team that the brothers are playing on. They're actually seeking out input from reporters, not just in Lithuania, but outside the United States. Jeff Goodman, he definitely sourced. Just getting input on what this all means, how they have to manage press conferences, how they have to manage media time, just the day-to-day schedule. So they're getting input. This is all new for this team. They had a younger player once, the son's coach, the coach's son was actually 14 years old at one point. But 16 years old and also with the brothers is a very unique situation. So they're getting a lot of input to try to figure this whole situation out.
Jared's whirling. Fresh off a flight from Lithuania. We may have to send you back. This story is not going away anytime soon. Racking up the frequent flyer mileage.
Get your passport stamps up.
Thanks, man.
Good time.
And that's going to do it for this Tuesday edition of SI Now. Be sure to join us tomorrow, Wednesday, 10:30 Eastern. And be sure to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Am I missing any there, Ron?
No. Did you get your Big Baller Brand shoes in the mail yet?
No. $4.95, just above my price range. I know. You wearing them yet?
$4.95. You make it sound like 4.95.
Yeah,
$495.
$495.
Yeah.
We'll see you tomorrow.